Real estate is not a bed of roses that doesn't come with a set of challenges. There are so many stories out there of people who have been burned by real estate and they still haven't recovered. Today, I'm going to share with you the not so good side of real estate, and I'm going to give you some advice on how you can avoid it. Let's talk. Real estate has always seemed like it's a perfect rich man's dream. You buy a property and all of a sudden you're carefree and have all this money. But unfortunately, that's not the case by a long shot. Real estate has so many ups and downs that we could spend hours talking about them. But don't worry, we're not going to take that long today. Today, I'm going to give you 5 of the biggest things that I feel you're going to encounter in real estate, and hopefully how you can plan for it and go through it the right way. So what are the 5 biggest problems you're gonna face? In my opinion, it's gonna be buying a house with hidden problems, overpaying for a house, dealing with other bad professionals, being scammed out of money, and that last one, I'm not gonna reveal just yet because it is a big one and it needs its own dedicated time. And yes, this last one can definitely cause you the most problems. So starting with number 1, buying a house with hidden problems. There has been several times in my career where I've bought a house and you try to do things the right way, you try to get your inspections done, but there's always things that come up that you did not expect. Take the current house that I'm currently renovating and working on. When we bought the house at an auction, the sheriff didn't advertise it the correct way. The sheriff advertised it as I was buying 100% ownership of this property, when in reality, I only bought 75%. But here's the real kicker. The sheriff didn't even have 75% to sell. Because the title work was done so poorly when the original owner bought it, I actually ended up only owning 66% of it. And that's what I mean, buying a house with hidden problems. You never know what you could get into. It could be title issues, it could be something wrong with the plumbing, the electrical. Who knows what could go wrong with it? But here's a few things that you can do when you're looking to purchase a property. Never ever avoid getting an inspection. If you're buying a property and you have the opportunity to get it inspected, do that. And another thing is ignoring what that inspector actually says on his report. If the inspector tells you, hey, the roof looks like it's in terrible shape, you need to get a contractor or a roofer to look at it, you should probably do that. Another one is checking the property disclosure form. I know down here in Louisiana, when someone goes to sell a property on the MLS, they have to put a property disclosure form on the MLS to show if there's anything that they know that is wrong with the house. Don't skip it, don't overlook it. Check the property disclosure because it could clearly tell you that something's wrong with the house. And lastly, an agent could actually help you with all of this. If you're not an experienced person in real estate and you haven't done this before, hiring an agent, it could be the difference between you buying your dream home and the home that just gives you nightmares. We can sum all of this up with something very simple. Do your due diligence. Number 2 is overpaying for a house. Now, this is one that I know a lot of people have felt, and I know a lot of people have done this. Sometimes people just feel pressured, like I have to overpay for this house. I have to buy it because I really like it. The market is competitive. I feel like I'm gonna lose my opportunity to get a house. But no, that is not the right mindset to have when approached buying a house. Overpaying for a house could easily set you back tens of thousands of dollars and hurt you financially in the long run. This is where having that real estate agent is gonna come in so handy. They could easily run the comps for you and tell you yes or no that this house is worth what you want to pay for it. Whether you're an investor or a first-time home buyer, running the comps and knowing what the house is worth is so important. There are countless stories right now of people who have overpaid for their house and they are upside down on the mortgage, especially if the market crashes. And yes, a house can appreciate over time, but if you overpay for it by too much, it won't appreciate fast enough. And if something were to happen to you in your life where you had to move and sell, you could be out tens of thousands of dollars. Another huge thing that I see people do all the time is they'll still pay for the house when the house does not appraise. They'll spend tens of thousands of dollars over the appraisal just to secure the house. That is a recipe for disaster. The next one, number 3, dealing with bad professionals, has haunted me in my dreams so many times. I've dealt with every type of bad professional, from a bad lender to a bad title company, bad contractors, bad agents. And it is a horrible nightmare when you get someone on the other side of a deal who doesn't know what they're doing. And what makes it worse is if they're not willing to get help or accept help from someone who knows better. No one in this field is perfect. So please, if you don't know what you're doing or if you need some help, it is okay to ask for help. And one thing I have to say is when it comes to things like appraisers and, other agents, a lot of what we do is opinion based. Things like running comps and trying to figure out how much a house could be worth or what an appraiser thinks the house is worth, that is all opinion based. But sometimes some appraisers, some other agent, they just go off into left field somewhere and they clearly don't know how to run comps. For example, you cannot compare a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom house in a gated community in a multi-million-dollar subdivision with a house that is 3-bedroom, 2-bath on 3 acres of land in the middle of the country. You just can't do it. Another piece of advice that I'm gonna give you is don't be that bad professional yourself. I always try to make it a point with no matter who I deal with to have a good rapport with people, letting them know that I'm trustworthy, that I'm honest, that if I say I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do it. All those things, they matter, especially in a business like real estate. So number 4, being scammed out of money. This is a nightmare story. There has been some reports that says 1 out of every 10 Americans is targeted for things like wire fraud through emails. And out of that, 1 out of every 20 Americans is actually being scammed. It can be so easy to be going through the whole process of closing. You're getting documents to the title company. They're sending you emails back and forth. It can get so easy to get caught up in an email where they say, hey, oh, by the way, send me your account information or wire this money here because, we need it for a deposit. But in reality, that's a hacker. That happens all the time. And that's the worst thing about it is they look legit. I always tell my clients, friends, other investors, people who are doing in real estate, if you're going to a closing, if you're communicating via email to a title company, if they send you anything that seems out of the norm, if they send you anything saying, hey, wire me money, call them. Say, hey, did you actually send this? Because you don't want to be out $10, $20, $100,000 sending that off to someone in Canada somewhere. Now for the big reveal of what I feel is the biggest problem that everyone seems to be talking about, but there's no one really trying to solve this problem. And unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be an end in sight for this. And that is affording to actually buy something decent. If you look on the news and you watch news, you'll see a lot of politicians simply saying, you know what, the market is good, employment rate is up, unemployment is down, people are getting better jobs. And that all sounds good on the surface, but in reality, that's not what's happening. We've all been in a situation where we want to buy a house or an investment and we go to look at the price and we just can't afford it. I mean, the average home price is $420,000, but the average American can't afford nowhere near that at only $250,000. And if you're looking to become an investor, it sounds like it's just not gonna get much better. All these single family homes are being bought up by these big companies and it just doesn't seem like there's enough for the average person. But there is a solution and there is a way that you can hopefully navigate this. There's a few things you can do to stay ready to buy. Number 1, have good credit. Having a good credit score of at least a 680, but preferably in the 700s is huge. And definitely you need to maintain that. Having liquid cash. And all that means is just having cash readily available. You're gonna need this cash for the down payment and possibly closing costs. And finally, never stop looking. It might seem hopeless right now, but I promise you, if you keep your credit good, you always have that cash available and you keep saving, you will find a house. Another little piece of advice, try as much as you can and as hard as you can to find off-market deals, whether that's a for sale by owner or just simply knocking and saying, hey, do you want to sell your house? Now, with all of this, like I just said, buying your first house or your first investment property, it's not impossible. And yes, you can do it in today's crazy market with just a few simple steps. Here are 2 videos that are going to help you either buy your first investment or buy your first house.